Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, it's Friday, September 23rd. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. The man accusing the chairman of the San Diego County Democratic Party of sexual assault has come forward. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen spoke with him in an exclusive interview and a warning that this story contains a graphic description of an alleged sexual assault and could be upsetting to sensitive viewers.
Oscar David Rendon filed a lawsuit this week against Will Rodriguez Kennedy, the chairman of the County Democratic Party. The lawsuit alleges Rodriguez Kennedy took Rendon home in August 2021 after a night of heavy drinking and sexually assaulted him. Because of his state of intoxication, the lawsuit says, Rendon does not remember the drive to Kennedy's apartment and remembers little else before awaking around 3 a.m. as Kennedy was penetrating him. Rendon was so intoxicated that he could not resist. Rendon agreed to an off-camera interview with KPBS. He says he told Rodriguez Kennedy earlier in the evening, when he was sober, that he did not want to have sex with him.
I do feel like he took advantage of me when I was in a vulnerable situation, unable to make a conscious decision about whether or not I wanted to go home with him and whether or not I wanted to allow him to have intercourse with me. That's how I felt.
Rodriguez Kennedy has been on leave from his position with the Democratic Party since May, when these allegations first became public. The San Diego County District Attorney's Office said last week that after their investigation, they would not be filing criminal charges. In a press conference Friday, Rodriguez Kennedy played a roughly 5-minute audio recording he secretly made of the sex act in question. He says the recording shows Rendon was sober enough to consent.
Today, I am being forced to sacrifice my dignity and privacy to prove that my ex-boyfriend has falsely accused me of a crime that I did not commit. It has become clear that his intent is malicious and has been designed to cause maximum emotional and political pain.
Also named in the lawsuit is San Diego City Council member Stephen Whitburn, who is Rodriguez Kennedy's roommate. The lawsuit claims Whitburn was at home the night of the alleged assault and failed to intervene. Whitburn's attorney declined to comment. The County Democratic Party says it has launched its own investigation into the matter. Rendon says the party has not yet asked for his side of the story. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The California legislature is out of session until December, but a local lawmaker is already proposing a bill to deal with homelessness. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the bill would ban encampments near sensitive areas like schools and parks.
While Senator Brian Jones hasn't yet been reelected for a new term, in Escondido he announced what he would do on the first day of the new session. He's proposing a bill to prohibit homeless encampments near sensitive community areas, such as schools, libraries, daycare centers, and parks like Grape Day Park, where he made the announcement.
This will help us protect our most vulnerable population, our children who go to school and daycare centers, play in the parks, and read books at the libraries.
The bill also requires enforcement officers to provide information about sleeping alternatives, homeless and mental health services, and homeless shelters. While this year's point-in-time count found a 10% increase in homelessness across the county, Interfaith Community Services CEO Greg Angel says he can't support the bill as it currently stands. He doesn't see it as a vehicle to compassionately clear encampments and connect homeless individuals to proper services.
If we can't provide a safe place, a safe alternative for people who are unsheltered in our parks, if we can't provide them a safe place to go, then we can't move them out of here. It's just inhumane. And what a lot of people don't understand and don't realize is that there are not available shelter beds here in North County.
Angel told KPBS what he sees as solutions to the problem.
So we need a short-term safe place for people to go. Shelters, day centers, those do not exist in accessible ways here in North County. And then long-term, we simply need housing that people can afford. And that's a very challenging issue, we understand, but that is ultimately what is leading to an increase in homelessness.
Jones says California's homelessness crisis has turned into a public health and safety crisis. He says his bill is modeled after a recent measure passed by the city of Los Angeles. It would require a 72-hour warning before an encampment can be cleared. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
This was a day of climate action around the world, and here in San Diego, it was young people who took the lead. They were on strike and marching in the streets, many with support from their schools. KPBS education reporter MG Perez was there.
What do we want? Climate justice!
On the streets of Chula Vista, high school students march with their messages, demanding cleaner air and no fossil fuels, right alongside college and graduate students, too. They all want solutions to global warming and not more problems.
Our history has been washed and watered down.
22-year-old Priscilla La Chapa is a community college student and this year's Miss Kumeyaay Nation. She has plenty to say about the climate crisis and how it affects her community on the Rincon Reservation.
Our riverbed plants, our mountain plants are not able to survive because it's too hot up in the mountains and it's too dry down by the riverbeds.
The protest signs repeat what the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reported this year. North America had its warmest summer ever.
We want policies, not empty promises.
That was enough to bring even more students to Waterfront Park in downtown San Diego this afternoon. They want the attention of local and international lawmakers. In other words, the adults in charge of making change.
We have set up a world that they're going to inherit the most negative impacts of climate change. So their voices need to be centered on these issues so we can protect their futures.
As discouraging as global warming statistics might be, this is not a death march. Organizers say the situation is serious. It is not hopeless. Many of these students are putting their education where their mouths are.
We have so many youth like here today who are advocating and making sure that this will be an issue that we talk about and that we make sure is declared as an emergency and not just seen as like a passerby.
Along with the hope and the hollering, there is also creative thinking among this younger generation.
Eat more crickets! And there you have it. These are the cricket bars.
Oswald Harris graduated from UC San Diego this year and wants to help slow climate change with his new protein-filled food made from crickets, which he says will feed more humans and reduce waste. It's still under development. MG Perez, KPBS News.
It's been about 3 weeks since the newest COVID-19 booster arrived in San Diego. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says even though it promises stronger protection against the pandemic's newest variants, demand so far has been weak.
The new bivalent vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna were designed to reduce hospitalization and death with the more infectious BA4 and BA5 Omicron variants. But so far, San Diegans haven't lined up for them in droves. Health officials report since their rollout earlier this month, some 72,000 doses have gone out as of Thursday.
That's countywide. So given, we have 3.3 million people, so we have a little bit to go.
Denise Foster is Chief Nursing Officer for San Diego County. The original booster has been taken by 1.4 million San Diegans. She says we're only in the first few weeks of the bivalent rollout, and it's bringing more people in to get boosted than in the weeks before it was here.
We still have a long way to go. So yeah, I would like to see more people coming in. We know as people get closer to the holidays, they're going to want to spend time with family and friends, and so this is a good time to get boosted.
Those 12 and older are eligible for the new Pfizer booster, with those 18 and over for the Moderna version. The doses are available at pharmacies, health providers, clinics, and even pop-up vaccination sites. Foster says access and supply is not an issue. Similar to when boosters were first made available, she says they're seeing a higher proportion of seniors seeking out the updated vaccines.
Which is exactly what what we'd like to see.
While the county is still delivering COVID-19 vaccines, the health department is winding down some of its post-exposure treatment sites. 3 of the 4 monoclonal antibody centers are set to close by the end of the month. This treatment helps prevent severe illness, but officials say demand has been decreasing with the growing accessibility of antiviral treatments like Paxlovid, which comes in a pill. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Big changes have been happening at the Carlsbad Police Department since officers used a beanbag gun and pepper balls on 2 suspects. KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser says the officers involved were suspended and now there's new training. A warning, this story contains graphic images.
On a Saturday night in April 2021, Carlsbad police officer Jordan Walker was searching for a stolen Kia SUV.
It's a stolen rental car.
He headed to an area of town near the I-5 known as a hotspot for crime. Walker spotted the car. It was being driven by a woman with a male passenger. He pulled them over and asked them to get out of the car.
Driver! Step out of the vehicle, put your hands in the air.
The driver refused, but the passenger listened. But when they tried to handcuff him, he fought back. So officers took him to the ground and punched him repeatedly. Corporal Derek Harvey fired a beanbag gun to puncture a hole in the car's rear window. Then Officer Edward Ramirez fired pepper balls at the woman, 57 rounds in all, while she was in the car.
I can probably get some pepper ball through that driver's side.
And after she jumped out and began to run. Officers ended up tackling and arresting her inside a nearby hotel. As far as police use of force incidents go, this one was not all that unusual. But the actions by the Carlsbad Police Department following the incident were. The department disciplined the officers, even though there were no complaints from the public.
Officer Ramirez, he deployed multiple rounds of the pepper ball gun.
I'm going to deploy pepper ball.
Christy Calderwood is Carlsbad's assistant police chief.
He was definitely out of compliance because she had not shown violent actions.
The department also faulted the supervisor, Sergeant Morgan Griggs, for not de-escalating the situation, and the high-ranking watch commander, Lieutenant Greg White, for not showing up at all.
Which was very concerning for us, and he ended up leaving the force shortly after that.
This level of discipline is not typical. Just 3% of local officers who used enough force to cause severe injury received any discipline. That's according to a KPBS analysis of local incidents since 2000. In Carlsbad, the department also created new training and reached out to community groups for input on a new de-escalation policy, including the North County Equity and Justice Coalition. Yusuf Miller is the co-founder.
It was a really easy and smooth process. I really enjoyed it. We were understood by the police department. They were understood by us, and it moved along without a lot of the contention you see in other meetings. People ready to throw shoes and books at each other and all this kind of stuff.
The Carlsbad Equity Coalition has also seen police improve their attitudes. Allie Vrendenberg is president.
There's this more moral responsibility to protect everyone that they can. And so it's creating this mindset of reducing harm to everyone and having a reverence for human life.
Still, Miller says none of this would be happening without the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police.
Before George Floyd, we only got 3 answers when it came to discussions like this. Only 3 answers. No, no, and hell no.
He says the fire of the summer of 2020 led to the calmer discussions happening today. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
The LA Unified School District is taking dramatic action to address fentanyl overdoses in its schools. The district will now provide naloxone in all schools. Naloxone, known by the brand name Narcan, is a drug that can reverse opioid overdoses. The action follows 7 teenagers overdosing on pills likely laced with fentanyl over the last 7 weeks. That includes a 15-year-old girl who died on a high school campus.
Individuals die through the consumption of fentanyl because they stop breathing. Narcan has a limited but highly effective way of reversing that condition, allowing individuals to restore breathing.
This week, the California Department of Public Health warned school leaders about rainbow fentanyl. According to the DEA, it can be found in brightly colored pills, powders, and blocks that resemble sidewalk chalk or candy, but it can be deadly. The state health department also encouraged schools that are interested in developing naloxone policies to apply for free supplies of the overdose antidote. Today is California Native American Day. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us how some middle school students celebrated Native American culture.
Students at Valley Center Middle School performed Native American dances Thursday, led by Christopher Shapis. He's a member of the Kotsan Nation and guest of honor at the school's celebration of California Native American Day.
Being part of Indigenous Peoples Days, at various schools, it feels good because first of all, it gets recognition where not a lot is, and having that representation growing up felt good when it did happen. It made me feel special, and it made me feel like I belonged to something.
Now he makes other kids feel special as the cultural coordinator for the San Pasqual Education Department.
Me doing this for the Native community, it's me doing this for my local community, making sure that everyone understands these connections, making sure that people have those connections with their fellow Native students, and having that recognition and talking with them, having that conversation starter.
I just really like to be participating in my culture and stuff like that. I like to, celebrate it and show it off to people, so that they could get a better understanding of where we come from.
These events are really important to me because it kind of brings awareness and to show people that you need to respect and that we are here, and it just lets me be able to show that side of me and be able to dance like I did now, because dancing really stopped during COVID, so that dancing right now just reminded me how fun and nice it was.
Stephanie Martinez is with the Valley Center Palma Unified School District. She is on a special teaching assignment and works with Native American students in Valley Center.
I think it just brings our student body and our staff together and realize that we are all one. We're one campus, we're, colleagues, we're peers, we're all of it. So to see maybe some students who aren't familiar with maybe our culture, it gives them a little eye-opening experience as to what we really do and how we can celebrate California Indian Day.
Martinez says 5 local reservations feed into the schools in Valley Center, and it's important to recognize a special day and honor age-old traditions. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The MCAS Miramar Air Show is taking flight once again this weekend. The theme this year is Marines Fight, Evolve, Win. Our media partner, ABC 10 News, was there yesterday as the famous Blue Angels practiced their routine. The crew has been training rigorously 2 to 3 times a day, up to 6 days a week from November to March.
We've had a palpable excitement this whole season as we've kind of came out of this pandemic, and with all the cool things that are happening. Top Gun Maverick came out. We got new platforms.
The air show will have daily performances, demonstrations, exhibits, and static displays. It is free all weekend unless you want to purchase special seating.
It may be the first weekend of fall officially, but it will be feeling much more like summer in Southern California with a hot pattern taking shape over the next few days. That also will come with a lot of dry weather hot, dry weather that will be fueling a wildfire risk in the days ahead as well. So try to limit and just refrain from any sort of outdoor burning this weekend. The water vapor imagery shows a lot of dry air over much of central and southern California. On this map, yellow, orange, and red is dry air. Hard to make any sort of precipitation with an atmosphere this dry, and this will stay the case over the next several days. For Friday night, mainly clear, quiet. 68 degrees will do it on the overnight low side, and region-wide we're talking about a fairly warm and fairly uneventful evening. Upper 60s to low 70s for the range in temperature with just a few passing clouds, otherwise generally on the clear side. It will be a calm weekend weather-wise, but heating up. This upper level area of high pressure will be strengthening over the southwestern states. That will push temperatures 5 to 15 degrees above normal right into the early part of next week. And as I mentioned, not only is it warm, that will reduce air quality and up the wildfire risk. So for your Saturday, lots of sun but hot. A lot of inland locations into the 90s, coastal locations low to mid 80s. We'll keep the warmth going into the early part of the week. There are some signs by the time we get to Wednesday, a Pacific system and a system from the Rockies could start to trim the warmth back, but that's still a little bit up in the air. 5-day forecast for the coast shows lots of sunshine, temperatures in the low to mid 80s right through the middle of next week. Inland, we're talking about low to mid 90s with the heat peaking on Monday, 95 degrees under a lot of sunshine. In the mountains, temperatures here will also be generally in the low 80s, plenty of sunshine on the warm side. And in the deserts, as usual, it is quite hot, much more like summer with temperatures as high as 107, 108 Sunday into Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ben Reppert.
California has the highest number of people who could receive student loan debt forgiveness. More than 3.5 million Californians are eligible to have some student debt forgiven under the Biden administration's plan. Many will receive up to $10,000 worth of debt forgiven. Pell Grant recipients who meet certain requirements can get up to $20,000. While that offers some support, the average amount of student loan debt a Californian carries tops $38,000.
If a student shows a college or university that they are low income, that they're poor, they shouldn't have to prove that they're poor every time they go into another office to get aid.
Borrowers must fill out a form to claim student loan debt relief. Applications will be released on the U.S. Department of Education's website in early October. It's been a rough week for stocks, and the latest interest rate hike is a big reason why. In the Friday Business Report, SDSU's Miro Kopik says the Fed is not done yet.
So they're planning another couple of rate increases this year, and they're looking at another 1.25% rate increase. So another 3/4 of a point potentially in November, with a 0.5 point in December. This is unusual because it's the first time the Fed has been fighting inflation at that level since the early 1980s. If they increase rates too high, it could send the economy into a recession. And that's where the markets have been really trending over the last couple of days. First and foremost, from a consumer perspective, you're going to see continued increase in mortgage rates, increase in the cost of car loans and credit cards. One of the things that could be a favorable thing for consumers is that retailers have announced that they're really going to start their holiday sales much earlier this year. And we may start seeing, certain deals even before Halloween hits. And for the first time in a couple of years, we're going to see discount levels that are going to be far in excess of what we've seen in the last couple of years.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Russia holds sham votes as it tries to annex the occupied parts of Ukraine. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Love is in the air at a new independent bookstore in North Park. KPBS Penner Fellow Juliana Domingo shows us how its owner hopes to create community and bond readers over their shared love of romance books.
Walking past the bright lavender storefront in North Park, you might wonder, what exactly lies beyond that picket fence? Named after the popular romance trope, Meet Cute is an independent bookstore dedicated entirely to romance books. While the genre is a billion-dollar industry, Meet Cute is one of only a handful of romance-focused bookstores in the country.
Romance readers are voracious readers, famously dive into an author, dive into their whole backlist, find read-alikes.
Owner Becca Title is a lifelong reader of the genre. During the pandemic lockdown, she decided to quit practicing law to open this small bookstore in San Diego. Her goal? Create a cozy, vibrant space for romance readers to meet and bond over the books they love.
In a world where you can buy almost anything online, a physical storefront is really a place for communities to gather, and that is something that the romance community looks for.
The store will have every possible theme and subgenre, with decorative displays which, Title hopes, highlight stories and authors often underrepresented in romance.
When you have just a general bookstore, we're all fighting for space on shelves.
That's Susan Lee, a local romance author. For authors like Lee, specialized stores like Meet Cute are important because romance books can stand front and center instead of competing with other genres. And that can be a gateway for marginalized authors.
Just in that nature, I think there is more opportunity for the representation of diverse books to make it onto the shelves.
And for a long time, Lee says, people considered romance a guilty pleasure. She believes Meet Cute can help shift that perception as readership grows.
There is a place for us to stand proud for the books that we read and not apologize for that. And I think if you can do that in a safe space, then we can eventually do that anywhere, at any bookstore or library or bus stop.
And what exactly draws readers to romance? For Title, it's all about the promise of a happy ending. Because at its core, romance is about hope, especially in times when that becomes increasingly difficult to find.
I personally prefer not to be put through the emotional ringer and then end up sad at the end. There's enough of that for me in the world. So I think it's a hopeful genre, and I think that's something that is really valuable, especially now.
Meet Cute will have its grand opening tomorrow. Juliana Domingo, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.